So let's talk about the discriminant of quadratic equation. Now, before we dive into this topic deeply, I would like to share with you the meaning of discriminant and what it helps us to do. The meaning is that it helps us to know the type of root we will be having in a certain quadratic equation. We can have three different types of root in a quadratic equation. We can have repeated roots, we can have equal roots which are distinct, and we can have complex roots whereby you'll be having a square root of values or square root of negative answers. Those are complex roots. Now, these topics helps us to know the kind of root we'll be having without solving the quadratic equation. Now, let's begin with what you need to know. For the equation ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0, having the root x to be equals, we are already familiar with this formula. That is typically the almighty formula, which some people know as quadratic equations or quadratic formula. Perfect. If x equals to minus b plus or minus, it is a radical of b squared minus 4ac over 2a, then if or when b squared minus 4ac is less than 0, the equation will have no real root. What it means is that it will be having a complex root. When you solve that quadratic equation, within the radical you'll be having negative answers. You know, negative, the square root of negative values will turn out to be a complex numbers. So whenever b squared minus 4ac is less than 0, keep in mind that you'll be having no real root, but a complex root. You already know what your b, a, and c's are. If you don't know that, you can check out the video just pop out. Okay, you'll be taught all those basics of the quadratic equations. Alright, the next thing you need to know is this. When b squared minus 4ac is more than 0, when it is greater than 0, then the equation has two real roots which are distinct. What this means is that you'll be having two different roots whenever b squared minus 4ac are what is more than 0. Keep that in mind. Okay. Now the next, which is the last one, is when b squared minus 4ac is equals to 0. In this case, you'll be having two equal roots, but yes, it will be two roots, but in this case, they are going to be equal to each other, like 3 and 3, minus 3, minus 3. You shall have two roots, but keep in mind that they will always be the same. Once b squared minus 4ac is equals to 0. So those are the basic things you just need to know about discriminant. Now the next thing is that, how will the question be asked? Now let's try to go over with how questions are going to be asked on this topic. Hopefully you are following. Now let's begin with this one. Determine the nature of the roots of the following equation. This is exactly how the question becomes. When the question doesn't ask you to solve for the roots or any other thing, when the question just says that you determine the nature of the root of the following equation, then it means you should use the discriminant method to know the type of root you'll be having after solving the quadratic equation. Now, the first thing we'd like to do is to figure out your b, your a, and your c. And after that, you just use the discriminant formula to know the kind of root you'll be having. Now, what exactly is our b? We know that b will be the coefficient of x. The coefficient of x here is minus 12. And a will be the coefficient of x squared. The coefficient of x squared in this problem is 1, and c will be the constant value that is not associated with any variable. In this problem, c is equals to 51. Having done all this, you can just plug it into the discriminant formula, which says that b squared minus 4ac must either be equals to 0, less than 0, or more than 0. For these three cases, it means something different. Let's begin by saying what is going to be. Now, b squared means minus 12 squared minus, let's put this within the parentheses, 4 times 1 times 51. At this point, I will actually need to use my calculator so as to have a correct and perfect result. So negative 12 squared will be indeed 144, the minus in the parentheses 4 times 1 times 51. That will result in 204. Perfect. So the next thing is that I would like to expand the parentheses, and in the end I should have 144 then minus 204. If I should subtract this, what would I have? Let's see. So this is indeed equals to negative 60. But it turns out that negative 60 is less than 0. So what condition, what type of root will we be having when b squared minus 4ac is less than 0? That's a question for you. We have talked about it. Okay, perfect. It's exactly the answer it gives. So in this case, we are going to be having a complex root. The quadratic equation will be having no real root. Perfect. Now let's move forward. Hopefully you are getting the tactics. Now let's try more problems in order to develop your ability in this certain topic. Consider this problem, the same scenario, the same question. Let's determine the nature of the root of this equation. By the way, feel free to pause the video and try to check out this problem if you can actually provide the solutions to it by stating the kind of root we are going to be having after solving the problem. Okay, let's begin. What exactly is our b? Don't forget I said b is the coefficient of x, that's negative 10, dodging with what we are saying. Then what about a? A is the coefficient of x squared, that's simply 1. And then c, which is the last variable, that's the coefficient, or so that should be the constant term. The constant term, that's positive 25. Perfect. The next thing is that I would like to plug in these values as b squared minus 4ac. And when I check, are they equal? Is my result equals to 0? Is it less than 0 or more than 0? I have 3 different conditions for each answers. Let's begin by checking the type of value we are going to be having. So let's begin. Negative 10 squared. Let me put that within parentheses. Minus 4 multiplied by 1 multiplied by 25. Okay, what should that be? Negative 10 squared should result in 100. Then minus 4 times 1 times 25 should also result in 100. Then 100 minus 100 turns out to be 0. Well, it turns out that b squared minus 4ac for this certain quadratic expression is equal to 0. And whenever b squared minus 4ac is equal to 0, what kind of root are we going to be having? You have just 2 seconds to answer that. Okay, perfect. So in this case, we are going to be having equal roots. Okay, we are going to be having equal root or related root. So whenever it is equal to 0, that is exactly what you are going to be having. By now, you should have understand the concept of using discriminant to know the type of root you'll be having in quadratic equation. Now, last problem or last example for this video. Okay, here it is. Well, I changed my mind. You are going to be using this as an exercise. Try to determine the nature of the root of this equation and try to post it in the comment section below, and I'm going to make a review on it as soon as possible. Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next video. I really appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed, do well to subscribe now. Thanks once again. Bye bye.